Yeah, hi, I'm Simon Wickenden from Arrow ECS, and today I'm here with Jim Gallagher from the MySQL team from Oracle.
Thanks, Simon. Nice to see you again after a few years apart.
Yeah, we've got to explain. Jim and I have known each other, we won't say how long, but a long time.
Yeah.
We were both at Summit together, which is kind of interesting and important here, because what we're going to do is talk about some of the history of MySQL and where it is today.
Okay.
So Jim, do you want to quickly introduce where you are and what you do now? And
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jim Gallagher. I am, as it says, the Oracle MySQL sales manager for the UK and Ireland. And I work absolutely hand in hand with Archie Dallywell, who is the partner channel manager for EMEA. So an awful lot of the business that we're doing today, there is some direct business, but most of our business is aimed towards going through the channel model.
So, I'm guessing we've got to start somewhere. How far in the past are you going to start with MySQL?
Okay, well, I am actually quite new to MySQL myself, but already since I've been in, I've had many conversations and seen many of the forums about the history and where it's all come from. And what was very interesting was obviously my knowledge of MySQL before was all around, it was a very small case, open, wild and free database that was out there, and it wasn't really seen as a commercial offering, was my understanding of it before. And it seemed to start off as something which was used for small projects, and then all of a sudden they realised that it worked well, and they wanted to use it for another project, and over time you start to realise that actually this is really good stuff, and it can be more and more used for bigger things.
So it's really interesting you say that, because I remember actually using it on a Synology disk pack back in the day.
Okay.
As a way of tying together my media streamers. So a small project. But it's moved on since then. So this was in the days when it was its own organisation.
I think so. It was just out there and it was free, it was open, there's this community of people that were all using it together. But then, if you go back 10 years, last month actually, talking to some of the guys, they were all together at a big conference over in Florida, in Orlando, and they all got called in, and they didn't know what this big announcement was that was getting made. And all of a sudden, Jonathan Schwartz, do you remember him?
I remember him well.
Okay, so Jonathan Schwartz popped up on the screen, and he made a couple of announcements, one of which was that Sun were about to acquire MySQL for $1 billion, which I think at the time was seen as shock horror. What's going to happen? This isn't right, and a big American global company can't own this free-spirited MySQL community. But I think Sun sort of maybe got away with it, because I think if it had been other companies it would have been a bigger problem, but Sun got away with it because Sun was still quite cool. I think when we were there it was seen as being quite cool.
I'm definitely going to take that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you had all of the Solaris and Spark, you had the Java, and what was missing from Sun was probably a database.
Yeah. So
it actually seemed to fit, and maybe Sun would have done the right thing with the database and with MySQL and kept it as something which was, in very safe hands. But little did they know that 2 years after that, big bad Oracle came along and looked at, did acquire some microsystems, and at that point,
I was about to say, I remember, because I was still there. I think you'd left at that point, hadn't you? But
okay.
But I was still there, and I remember that one of the big sticking points in the negotiation was around MySQL and the community feel that Oracle were going to
absolutely
destroy it.
Oh yeah, and I don't think they could have been classed as being a worse company that could have come into the fray to take on MySQL in most people's minds. And at that point, such was the resentment of Oracle taking over that there were a number of forks that were developed, because people said, well, okay, if Oracle are going to take over MySQL, then we need to recreate it in some other ways so that they can't take over it altogether. And an awful lot of people left MySQL at that point and actually moved on to work for some of these other companies.
But from my point of view, looking at MySQL today, Community Edition is still there.
It is.
It's still huge.
Oh, it's most of the market. Yeah,
and it's still completely free.
It is.
And it's going to have far more R&D than any of the forks.
Yeah, so when that happened and a lot of the forks were established, they produced their own offerings to the market, which are all based on the community edition, and it still is today. So all of the offerings that you get from any of our competitors that are still out there, they are all using the community edition, and they've put on their own wraparound applications, which they've so every time a new version, the latest version of MySQL comes out from ourselves, they have to take that, put it into their software, make sure all of these packages around the side are all fully supported and will all tested before they can release it. So most of these competitors are usually a bit later to get back out to market than we are, because when we release the inside database, we actually have tested all of our applications around the side as well.
So just a matter of interest, what you're saying is it's all still Oracle at the back end.
Yeah.
What is the feeling about big bad Oracle, as you put it?
Well,
still owning on MySQL.
I think now even them biggest doubters that were out there at the time have actually held their hands up and said, do you know what, we were wrong, and Oracle have absolutely stood up. They've put the money in, they've put the people in, they've put the time in. They haven't cannibalised it with Oracle Database. They've kept it as a separate global business unit in the organisation, and it couldn't be in a better state than it is today.
So what does the future hold?
The future's very, very bright. There's still a massive untapped market out there. Over 90% of MySQL that's out there today is still the free community edition. So the actual market opportunity is enormous. But what you now find all of a sudden is that we've got a number of massive organisations that are using MySQL for their top mission critical applications. And I'm talking here at the likes of Facebook. We're talking, for example, the Indian government are actually, for all of their IDs of their 1 billion citizens, every citizen in India has got an ID card. It's all held on MySQL. Candy Crush, these games, World of Warcraft, all these essential things for a lot of the kids out there, a lot of the adults out there as well probably. You know, you can't have that go down for a second when you're in the middle of a game and someone's about to shoot you or you're about to shoot them, these kind of things. It's essential that it's up, it's reliable, it's all on all the time. And that is what you get from MySQL. In fact, one of the biggest references we've got is Euronext. So there's actually 2 billion financial transactions on the Euronext trading platform transacted every day. Now, for that kind of level of transaction to be done securely, instantly, scale to whatever level we need it to, just gives you every notion of how seriously it's taken today in the market. And I think that's going to continue to be the case. And the more people hear about it, which is the biggest challenge, people are going to jump on the bandwagon and start using it for a lot more applications.
So basically, the community edition that everyone thought was going to get cannibalised and go away, still carrying on in the way it ever used to,
yeah,
if not even more popular than it was in the past.
Absolutely.
And people that now want to take this into the enterprise space with personal data, that need security, mission critical features, reliability and performance, you can cater for that too with the enterprise edition.
Whatever you think you need from a database, you can get from MySQL with the enterprise edition. It gives you all of them features that we discussed earlier on that come as part of the package, all your security, all of them things, and it will absolutely deliver whatever any business requires.
Excellent. I hope that was a good little potted history of MySQL and where it is today. As you said, the future is rosy. I think we'll look for some interesting videos possibly in the future around new launches. That's great.
All right.
Thanks very much, Jim.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you for watching.
Cheers.